Welcome back, baseball fans, to the 70-73 Carryover League off-season. Looking at keeper, waivers, retires. We've established the four keeper, two waiver, and two retire in the last installment of this series. Thought I would take a little deeper dive today and look at the waived players. Before I do, I kind of want to show you the various groups of data I had to this point. These green named players are current players that are on the team indicated in column B, starting alphabetically with Arizona. These are the six players they have with a 1970 card, the four players with a 71 card, and the two players with a 72 card. I have the defenses in here as on these super advanced card sets. Of course, they don't have E ratings back in this era. The 70s are a reissue, they do. So I carry those forward for teams and move them to each of the following seasons. So with 12 carry over active players and 32 teams, you see I've got a inventory of 384 carry-on active players. Next, we have the guys who are keepers. We just have to draft them in one of the years of 70, 71, 72, and 73. Again, starting alphabetically. And there's 4 per team. For 32 teams is 128. And there you are. So now you've got 384 and 128 is 512. I'm going to skip to retirees. These are your 64 retired players who need replacement. I've made notes already when I know a card is available, even though he's retired on a technicality. So Paul Doyle has a nameless player card I made for the 70 season that will be thrown out. Bob Didier has a 70 card that's very poor, as does Don Cardwell, as does Tommy Matchick. So they may as well stay in retirement. They're not going to be drafted. But tonight's examination are the waived players. Because some of these waived players, we had an abundance of keepers and some were pushed into waivers, and somebody's going to do some good shop around and find a nice waived player to make their team. I'm not saying this is a exhaustively fantastic list, of course. To qualify for waivers in the 4-year carryover league, you need a Strat-O-Matic card to exist in the first year, which is 1970. I've got it in gray. And when I do an analysis tonight, I'm going to highlight players if it is noteworthy. And so that's what tonight's analysis will be. We're going to go to Baseball Reference. We're going to take a look at these 64 waived guys and see what kind of future they have. We're going to start by team in alphabetical order, starting with Arizona. A lot of times when you see a guy on waivers, it doesn't necessarily mean he played for them last year. He might have been acquired in the off-season to this point, so that each team qualifies for 2 waived guys. But let's start with Kurt Bleffrey. We're going to go right up here and do an examination of Bleffrey. He plays through to 72. And do I see anything that stands out? 70, his OPS is 658. 71, 673. 72, 673. Nothing stands out. The only thing I do know is that he doesn't play in 73. So for Bleffrey down here, I'm just going to delete the 73 because I know he doesn't exist. But it really doesn't matter. You're going to get a similar performance in those other 3 years. And it's not particularly very good. Next guy, Dave Boswell. I can move quickly here if the guys aren't particularly good. So Boswell has a pretty bad 70 card, and his 71 card might not even be made because it's only 29 innings. So I'm just going to erase all of this. And the only 70 cards I'll put in bold will be if they're pretty good. Next player, Tom Griffin. Tom Griffin had a nice long career. Astros, Giants, So he's very young here in 70. Has a bad year in 1970, doesn't he? 71, not so much. 72 is okay. 72, he's got a 3.24 ERA, a whip up of $1.37. 73, it's also good. I'm going to guess they move into the bullpen, if I had to guess. And then eventually, though, but actually in 74, he becomes a starting pitcher. If a team invested in this guy, it would be to acquire him and then put him into, eventually get a 74. You can let him sit out a year and then bring him back in 74 as well. Noteworthy here would be 72 and 73, so I'm just going to make those bold. Or I'm just going to make those black. That's what we'll do. Okay. Next guy, Fred Lasher. Fred Lasher played through to 71. 419 and 70, not very good. And 71, it's not even there. So I'm going to delete 71 through 73 and move on. Ron Taylor. Ron Taylor, he was in the bullpen for the 69 Mets in their World Series triumph. There it is, 2.72 ERA. 70 card is still good, 3.93. 71 is also good. And 72 he's done. So I'm just going to get rid of 72 and 73. And he's pretty good in 70 and 71. I'm going to highlight those. Next up is Bob Espermonte. Again, I'm not really mentioning the team that's putting them on waivers. Now, though, a team could change their mind and say, you know what, instead of putting this guy on waivers, let's hold on to him and move one of our keepers to waivers. So, but at least at this point, once I get a spreadsheet like this created, it'll speed up the drafting process because all waivered cards are put in their own category in each of the boxes, and they're separated into a class of 64 cards for each year, 70, 71, 72, 73, up to 64 cards if that many cards exist. But this would speed up the process because I could quickly, find the guys I want to look at first. Espermonte, 70 and 71. 71, he has more plate appearances. He's just it's just not very good. I was going to delete the 72 and 73. Next up, Mike Nagy. See, he actually looks like Charles Nagy. Is that father and son? Maybe. They have that here? Maybe not. So Nagy, 70 is pretty ordinary. 71 probably doesn't have enough innings. 72, 73, and 74. Not enough, not enough, and not enough. Nothing there. I'll just erase his 71, 2, and 3. Bill Voss. He actually played corner outfield for the Red Sox in the past year, backing up Canigliaro for defense with a nice 261 card. Following year, pretty similar card. And in 71, it's okay as well. And then in 72, probably not. Probably not. So again, it's 70 and 71 for Voss. We'll make that, highlight those particular years, and delete the other ones. Ron Brand was a catcher for the Expos in their expansion year. In this particular waiver list, you're going to see a lot of guys who were brought into the league in 69 just to fill roster spots because it was a 4 major league team expansion. And chances are, by 70, They figured out, oh, this guy is a quadruple A player. He's somewhere between the triple A and the majors, but just not that great. Brand comes down in 70, and that's his only year. He ain't going to qualify for 71, so we'll just get rid of 71 and 2 and 3. Woodward. Now, Woody would actually be a utility infielder for that Reds team that went to the World Series in the 70. Had 289 at bats in 70. And in 71, he's has a little bit more stick, barely. I'll just delete 72 and 73. This kind of makes a lot of sense that these guys aren't available in 72 and 73, because it is a smaller talent of, it's a smaller number of baseball players. You only had 20 baseball teams in 1968. You only have 24, of course, now. It's only been a couple years, 70 and 71, and you're trying to get 32 baseball teams, even though the rosters are just 20-man rosters. It spreads the talent rather thin. It's easier to spread this talent in the Seattle, Toronto era. 2 extra teams, even though those 2 teams aren't particularly good, it still means extra players are made and moved around. So Reagan doesn't have a 72 or 73. Doesn't have a 72 or 73 card either. Phil Reagan. Sonny Jackson. Sonny moves from shortstop to center field, which is not good for the Braves because they would end up having Dusty Baker play center field. So it didn't make a whole lot of sense to lose that position. So exclusively shortstop in 70, exclusively center fielder in 71. So that's your choices. And then the numbers dwindle. He's got a card for all 4 years, but 70 and 71 are slightly better. I'll give them a bolder look. So I'll heavily consider those 2 versus the other 2. Frank Lindsay is next up. Giant reliever. Had a long career. Started at 63. 71, he's better than in 70. 70 and 71 and 72. Really, all 3 of those years. He's got a 73 card. He's got cards in all 4 years. That's pretty cool. 70 through 72 are a little bit better than 73, but it's actually 71 and 72 are the best years for Lindsay. So it's interesting because these are the first 2 guys we've seen 4-year availability. We've been cutting guys in 72 and 73. Now, Brusdell Canton, I know, pitches later in this decade. He probably... I wonder if he misses any time here. Or it's consecutive. Kansas City and then Atlanta. So 70... He improves in 71 and 72 with a card. Once he leaves Pittsburgh and goes to Kansas City. 71 and 72 are better. So I'm going to do the same thing with him as I did with Lindsay. It makes 71 and 72. Highlight those. All 4 years, but 71 and 72 are better. That's the analysis we're looking for. Russ Snyder. None of these players jump off the page yet. Russ Snyder's getting up long in tooth. 70 is his only year. Buyer beware. But again, that's sometimes good too. Meaning that if you take him for 1970, you don't got to have him for 1 year. It's not going to hurt you that much. As like a guy with a 4-year contract, he doesn't perform. Al Weiss. That'll make us a quarter of the way done. Al Weiss, known more for the glove. And 70 is the only year for him. You're going to get him, if you get him, it's for the glove. So we'll get rid of the other years. At least we can move quickly through this. We are 1/4 of the way through. I'll take a break. once we get to halfway through. Next card is Mike Shannon. Long time Cardinal. Played in a couple World Series, I'm going to guess. Here and here. 70 is his next year. If he can fit in maybe a platoon, or he's good defensively, something like that. But he's only at 213. Again, the teams who are doing this, waiving these guys, they're just glad they don't have to retire them, because you have to have a guy qualify for waivers. Gary Ross, he actually pitches into the 70s. Would eventually throw 200 innings in 70. Here it is, 76. He throws 200 innings. 70's not very good. 71, it's unfortunately a short sample size, but 72 is nice. 2.45 ERA in 72. So let's put a bold under that one for Gary Ross. Nice. Dave Marshall was put in that Sam McDowell trade, the Giants, Sam McDowell, and trade with the I made with Gaylord Perry. So he actually has cards for at least 3 of the 4 years, and the stats aren't that bad, but as a corner outfielder, you kind of want more. So I'm not going to highlight anything other than to indicate delete 73, because he didn't get enough plate appearances to get a card. So I'll just delete 73 under him. Ray Washburn. 70 card for him only, and it's bad. Oh boy. I'm not going to delete the year of 70 though. That wouldn't be very nice, but he most likely is on waivers and will probably stay on waivers. Don Worked. He got into the league by having a nice glove at the hot corner. Played from 63 to 71. And in 70, probably has a good glove again, I'm guessing. That's his only year. So we do seem to have a lot of third basemen. We see Espermonte, Mike Shannon, Don Wirt. Guys who have one more year left in the tank. Do you need a guy to back up at third base or be a utility infielder? Next up, Bob Tillman, a catcher. Brought a little bit of power and on base percentage to the Colorado Rockies. Boston had a lot of catchers in this era. They had Fisk and Moses and Bob Montgomery. 70, that's a 707 OPS. I bet you this card gets into the league. It's his only year. I'm going to put a little bump here. It's the first guy with an OPS over 700 I've seen, so I just want to take a peek at that when it's draft time. I'm sure he might get into a platoon catching role. All right. Here we go, folks. Denny Mclean. You're going to eventually see a Hall of Famer somehow pop up on this list. Or a Hall of Very Gooder in this particular case, I guess. So he's got the 55 wins and 68 and 69. Then it comes crashing down a little bit. 71, he goes back on the rotation, but his whip's kind of high. I'm going to note 71, though. He's no 73. But I'm going to note 71 because at least his record's not very good. At least he pitches on 3 days rest, and some team might value that. Plus, I want to keep these guys going if I can. I don't want their careers to end. Sid O'Brien. Played through 72. Third baseman, utility infielder. 70 is very similar to 69. Then it falls apart and there's no 72 or 73. I'm just going to delete 72 and 73, move on. Mike Kilkenny got into the league last year because he's left-handed. Had a shortage of those, of course, as we always do. You couldn't play a 4-year carryover league, or you couldn't put 32 teams with 20-man rosters together and find enough left-handed pitching, or you'd have to have 1 or 2 lefties per team. You couldn't have 2 or 3. There's just not enough. Kilkenny here. He's 72. He paid for the Tigers, the A's, the Padres, and the Indians. Pitched 60 innings. 71. Oh boy. 72. I don't know what to say about this guy other than he didn't play in 73, so I'll just delete 73. Chico Ruiz. Oh, there's 2 of them. We want this one. 64 to 71. So 70 is very similar to 69. And 71 didn't make his card. So he only has a 70. Chico Ruiz. This could be a very disappointing season for looking for waived players. Norm Miller is next. Norm Miller, 70 cards. See, again, corner outfielder, you got to produce more for the carryover league. Doesn't have a 73 card, and we'll just leave it at, actually, 70. I don't know if they made these cards. It's hard to say. So all I know at this point is he doesn't have a 73 card. We'll leave it at that. I mean, I understand the stats of these guys are better than the infielders, but corner outfield, you need more juice for corner outfield. Joe Negro. You'll see here, it takes him a while before he gets to be the great. You see him in the Astro hat here. But it takes him a little bit of time before he puts up those big Astro numbers. He wins 21 games in 1979. And he doesn't start pitching effectively until 76. He's out in the wilderness here, folks. So in 70, he pitches on 3 days rest. And of those 4 years, 70 would be the best. I'm just going to highlight that one. At least he participates in all the years. And if someone's looking for a guy to pitch on 3 days rest, go get Joe Negro. Wally Bunker. See a lot of guys on the Orioles. My goodness, they produced some pitchers, didn't they? So he had a nice 69 card for Kansas City. Think about that. He was an Oriole. Probably got a ring for the World Series Orioles in '66. But actually he finally got to pitch on the rotation on the expansion. Royals did a commendable job, 12-11. In 70, starter relief. Numbers drop a little bit. They don't have a 71 card. So we'll just leave the 70 there. Not being highlighted is self-explanatory. We know it's the only card to look at. Another Oriole, Mo Drabowski. How many Mo's are there in baseball? A lot. Mo Dra, there he is. Again, wearing the Oriole hat. Mo Drabowski. He also went to Kansas City in '69. They knew what they were doing. They were building that ball club. They said, call the Orioles. You know, if we're going to start from scratch in '69 as the Kansas City Royals, I'm sure the Orioles have some leftover guys we can get. He had a great '69. His card made the All-Star team in the past season. 70's still good. 71 he's still good. I don't think he has a card in 72. Not enough innings. 35 innings. So it's 70 or 71. They're both pretty good. I'm going to delete 72 and 73, and I'm going to highlight 70 and 71 because they're pretty good. All right, the final team's players before I take a little break is the Dodgers. Tommy Reynolds and Earl Wilson. Tommy Reynolds actually played for Oakland. There he is with the Oakland outfit on. Yeah, 70 is the year. At least he gets 250 in that one. The other years, no 73 for him. I can highlight 70. And Earl Wilson. Earl Wilson had a nice card for the Tigers in 69. Oddly enough, the Tigers didn't even use him. They let him go to, I believe, the White Sox. 12 and 10, 331 ERA in 200 innings. Nice card. He's still decent in 70. Splitting time with the Tigers and the Padres. Somewhat decent. And that's his only year. I'll delete the other years and leave 70 alone. All right, that's 32 of the 64 guys. I'm going to take a brief break here and come back with the last 32. All right, welcome back, baseball fans. We've completed the analysis of the waived players. And first observation I have is that the teams did a great job of identifying the guys to put on waivers, meaning that to the team losing a guy, it's not going to hurt very much to lose that particular player. And being successful and having a waived guy only appear in the initial year was a common thread throughout. And the most important observation, because it's only taken about an hour to do this, 30 minutes for this video, and this is just a summary here I'm going to do, is that there is not an obvious no-brainer on the list. There's not like one guy that was a screw-up and should never have been put on waivers because he's really super talented. So it's good news for the balance and the competitive part of the league, is that no team is going to benefit from an unfair acquisition. And the same thing, no team got screwed by losing a guy. That plays well for competitive reasons. And by looking at a kind of pretty ordinary waiver list, it means that the talent will have to come in through guys who, from that last chance of 1970, guys who had not been in the league yet, will be competing against these 64 waiver guys who have been in the league for participation in the year of 1970, and neither side has an advantage, as well as teams looking for talent in the future years of 71, 2, and 3. So I've went through the first 32 before, and I'll just kind of go through since, if anything sticks out. Ron Herbal, 70 is all right. Jerry May as a catcher is a nice 71 card. He'll probably be a platoon player as a catcher in 71. Horland's going to be a reliever in 72. Joe Foy, a big part of that 69 Met team. Also has a good 1970 card, though he's pretty much just a third baseman by this point. Nice on base percentage, not much more. Not that special. It's not like the Mets are worried about losing him. And then a couple guys are doing the same thing. Willis in the bullpen is a little bit better. French on-base machine catcher. National, a lot of these pitchers I highlight in 70 is simply because they can pitch on 3 days rest. Pitching on 3 days rest is valuable. It means you've got a full 4-man bullpen. You only have a 20-man roster. So you got a 4-man, you like to have a 4-man bullpen versus a 3-man pen. You only have 12 hitters. It means you need 6 everyday guys and then 3 players in platoons. You don't have the luxury of just stashing an extra defensive player or an extra left-handed hitter off the bench or an extraordinary pinch hitter. It's very tight. Every roster spot is very valuable. That's kind of the point of the carryover league. Coco LeBoy can play a little bit better third base in 71 than 70. You see stuff like this on this list. Veal can pitch on 3 days rest. Hall of Famer Jim Bunning, he's got an ERA of 4.11, but he can pitch on 3 days rest. And I really like to get Hall of Famers in the league whenever I can. So somebody will get this guy. He was almost a keeper if you saw the beginning of the offseason. And then at the last minute, the team, Las Vegas, found a better keeper than Bunning, and it was Ray Culp. Pitched better than Bunning in 1970, and that put Bunning on this list. He could very well be the best player on this list. Maybe he goes back to Detroit or Philadelphia. Jimmy Stewart was on that World Series team of the Reds. Versatility there. Again, Rich Morales, Frank Rehberger have cards 71 and 72. Nobody has a card in 73, which makes sense. Oh, actually, Tom Griffin. Yeah, actually, Tom Griffin has a long career. So he was probably brought into the league. The reason you see like Griffin here, and only Griffin, he was probably brought into the league in 1969 and he wasn't ready yet. So when his 69 card was up, now his career is starting to begin. So he's got a good 73. He's pretty much the only player like that in this list. Kurt Motton's got a nice OPS card in 70, and then it just doesn't finish very well with all these other players. So I didn't highlight any of them. So I'm not going to say it's disappointing. It's actually saved myself a lot of time during the draft, because a lot of times I'm always looking for a diamond in the rough in the waiver pile. And no matter how many times I stare at the Strat-O-Matic cards, you can't turn the charcoal into a diamond just because you keep looking at the card and go, well, that one column looks good, or hey, he's a good bunter. His hit and running's good. Oh, he's a good base runner. I'll get him in the league that way. It just, there's only so much exhaustive looking at cards you can do. So this time spent now will speed up the draft, which will be, of course, in the spring of 2022. That's the analysis tonight of waived players. Thanks for checking out this series. We'll see you next time.